Hello, guys and gals, and this is part 24 of our reading of William Goldman's The Princess Bride. Sorry for that interruption. I'm going to keep it in because I don't really care. And we're going to go over the copyright information, which is right here. And I'm going to go find it in the book because it's kind of blurry, but oh well. Anyways, clearly says here that The Princess Bride is copyright 1973 by William Goldman, all rights reserved, published in the United States by Ballantine Books, a division of Random House Incorporated, New York, and simultaneously in Canada by Ballantine Books of Canada, Limited, Toronto, Canada. Library of Congress card number, the ISBN, the editions published, manufactured in the United States, and this is different publishings, and the cover art is by Norman Green. Now, in the last book, they resurrected Wesley. Humperdinck moved the wedding up by half an hour. Buttercup is still certain that Wesley is going to come and save her. And Physique, Wesley, well, the newly revived Wesley, and Inigo are at the wall, and they're going to try and find a way to break into the castle and stop the wedding. So, let's continue. We're going to go back one paragraph. So, when she heard the wedding was to be moved up, she wasn't the least upset. Wesley was always prepared for contingencies, and if he could rescue her at 6, he could just as happily rescue her at 5:30. Actually, Prince Humperdinck got things going even faster than he had hoped. It was 5:23 when he and his bride-to-be were kneeling before the aged Archdeacon of Florin. It was 5:24 when the Archdeacon started to speak, and 5:25 when the screaming started outside the main gate. Buttercup only smiled softly. Here comes my Wesley now, and all she thought. It was not, in point of fact, her Wesley that was causing the commotion out front. Wesley was doing all he could to simply walk straight down the incline towards the front gate without help. Ahead of him, Inigo struggled with the heavy wheelbarrow. The reason for its weight was that Physique stood in it, arms wide, eyes blaring, voice booming in terrible rage. "I am the dread pirate Roberts, and there will be no survivors," he said, that over and over, his voice echoing and reverberating as his rage increased. He was standing there, gliding down through the darkness, quite an imposing figure, seeming, all in all, probably close to 10 feet tall, with voice to match, but even that was not the cause of the screaming. Yellen, from his position by the gate, was unreasonably upset at the roaring giant gliding down towards them through the darkness. Not that he doubted his 100 men could dispatch the giant. The upsetting thing was that, of course, the giant would be aware of that too. And logically, there must be somewhere in the dimness out there be any number of giant helpers, other pirates, anything. Who could tell? Still, his men held together remarkably staunchly. It was only when the giant got halfway down the incline that he suddenly, happily burst into flames and continued to trip, saying, "No survivors, no survivors," in a manner that could only indicate deadly sincerity. It was seeing him happily burning and advancing that stopped the brute squad that started the brute squad to screaming. And once that happened, why, everybody panicked and ran. Chapter 8, The Honeymoon. Once the panic was well underway, Yellen realized he had next to no chance of bringing things immediately under control. Besides, the giant was terribly close now, and the roar of no survivors made it very hard to do any solid thinking. But fortunately, he had the sense to grab the one and only key to the castle and hide it on his person. Fortunately, too, Wesley had the sense to look for such behavior. "Give me the key," Wesley said to Yellen, once Inigo had his sword securely pressuring Yellen's Adam's apple. "I have no key," Yellen said. "I swear on the grave of my parents. May my mother's soul forever sizzle in torment if I am lying." "Tear his arms off," Wesley said to Physique, who was sizzling a bit himself now because there was a limit to just how long a Holocaust cloak was really good for, and he wanted to strip a bit but before he did that, he reached for Yellen's arms. This key, you mean? Yellen said as he dropped it, and after Inigo had taken his sword, they had let him run away. Open the gate, Wesley said to Physique. I'm so hot, Physique said. Can I please take this thing off first? And after Wesley's nod, he pulled the flaming cloak away and left it on the ground. Then unlocked the gate and pulled the door open enough for them to slip through. Lock it and keep the key, Physique, Wesley said. It must be after 5:30 by now. Half an hour left to stop the wedding. What do we do after we win, Physique said, working with the key, forcing the great lock to close. Where should we meet? I'm the kind of fellow who needs instructions. Before Wesley could answer, Inigo cried out and readied his sword. Count Rugen and 4 palace guards were rounding the corner and running towards them. The time was 5:34. The wedding itself did not end until 5:31, and Humperdinck had to use all his persuasive ability to get even that much accomplished. As the screaming from outside the gate burst all bounds of propriety, the prince interrupted the archdeacon with great manner and said, Holiness, my love is simply overpowering my ability to wait. Please skip on down to the end of the service. The time was then 5:27. Humperdinck and Buttercup, the archdeacon said, I am very old and my thoughts on marriage are few, but I feel I must give them to you on this most happy of days. The archdeacon could hear absolutely nothing and had been so afflicted since he was 85 or so. The only actual change that had come over him in the past year was that for some reason his impediment had gotten worse. Mawage, he said, very old. Unless you paid strict attention to his title and past accomplishments, it was very hard to take him seriously. Marriage, the archdeacon began. Again, Holiness, I interrupt in the name of love. Please hurry along as best you can to the end. Mawage is a dweem within a dweem. Buttercup was paying little attention to the goings-on. Wesley must be racing down the corridor now. He always ran so beautifully, even back on the farm, long before she knew her heart. It was good to watch him run. Count Rugen was the only other person in the room, and the commotion at the gate had him on edge. Outside the door, he had his 4 best swordsmen, so no one could enter the tiny chapel. But still, there were a lot of people screaming where the brute squad should have been. The 4 guards were the only ones left inside the castle, for the prince needed no spectators to the events that were soon to happen. If only the idiot cleric would speed things along. It was already 5:29. The dweem of Wov wapped within the greater dweem of everlasting west. Eternity is our friend. Remember that, and Wov will follow you forever. It was 5:30 when the prince stood up and approached the archdeacon firmly. Man and wife, he shouted. Man and wife, say that. I'm not there yet, the archdeacon answered. You just arrived, the prince replied. Now. Buttercup could picture Wesley rounding the final corner. There were 4 guards outside waiting. At 10 seconds per guard, she began figuring, but then stopped because numbers had always been her enemy. She looked down at her hands. Oh, I hope he still thinks I'm pretty, she thought. Those nightmares took a lot out of me. Man and wife, your man and wife, the archdeacon said. Thank you, your holiness, the prince said, whirling towards Rugen. Stop that commotion, he commanded, and before his words were finished, the count was running for the chapel door. It was 5:31. It took a full 3 minutes for the count and the guards to reach the gate, and when they did, the count could not believe it. He had seen Wesley killed, and now there was Wesley, and with a giant and strangely scarred, swarthy fellow. Something about the twin scars banked deep into his memory, but now was not the time for reminiscing. Kill them, he said to the fencers, but leave the middle-sized one until I tell you. and the 4 guards drew their swords. But too late, but too late, and too slow, because as Physique moved in front of Wesley, Inigo attacked the great blade binding, and the 4th guard was dead before the first one had sufficient time to hit the floor. Inigo stood still a moment, panting. Then he made a half-turn in the direction of Count Rugen and executed a quick and well-formed bow. "Hello," he said. "My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die." And in reply, the Count did a genuine, remarkable, and unexpected thing. He turned and ran. It was now 5:37. King Lotheron and Queen Bella arrived at the wedding chapel in time to see Count Rugen leading the 4 guards in a charge down the corridor. "Are we too early?" Queen Bella said, as they entered the wedding chapel and found Buttercup and Humperdinck and the Archdeacon. "There is much going on," the prince said. "All in due time will come matchlessly clear, but I fear there is a strong possibility that at this very moment the Guelderians are attacking. I need time alone in the garden to formulate my battle plan. Could I prevail upon you two to personally escort Buttercup to my bedchamber?" His request was naturally granted. The prince hurried off then, and after one stop to unlock a closet and remove several pairs of boots that had once belonged to Guelderian soldiers, he hurried outside. Buttercup, for her part, walked very slowly and peacefully between the old king and queen. There was no need ever to worry, not with Wesley there to stop her wedding and take her away forever. The truth of her situation did not take genuine effect until she was halfway to Humperdinck's room. There was no Wesley, no sweet Wesley. He had not seen fit to come for her. She gave a terrible sigh, not so much of sadness as of farewell. Once she had got to Humperdinck's room, it would all be done. He had a splendid collection of swords and cutlery. She had never seriously contemplated suicide before. Oh, of course, she'd thought about it. Every girl does from time to time, but never seriously. To her quiet surprise, she found it was going to be the easiest thing in the world. She reached the prince's chamber and said good night to the royal family, and went directly to the wall display of weaponry. The time was 5:46. Inigo, at 5:37, was so startled at the Count's cowardice that for a moment he simply stood there. Then he gave chase, and of course he was faster, but the Count made it through a doorway, slamming and locking it, and Inigo was helpless to budge the thing. "Physique," he called out desperately. "Physique, break it down." But Physique was with Wesley. That was his job, to stay and protect Wesley, and though they were still within view of Inigo, Physique could do nothing. Wesley had already started to walk slowly, weakly, but he was under his own power walking. "Charge it," Physique replied. "Slam your shoulder hard. It will give for you." Inigo charged the door. He slammed and slammed his shoulder, but he was within the door otherwise. "He is getting away from me," Inigo said. "But Wesley is helpless," Physique reminded him. "Physique, I need you," Inigo screamed. I'll only be a minute," Physique said, "because there were some things you did no matter what, and when a friend needed help, you helped him." Wesley nodded, kept on walking still slowly, still weak, but still able to move. "Hurry," Inigo said. Physique hurried. He lumbered to the locked door, threw his bulk against it hard. The door held. "Please," Inigo urged. I'll get it, Physique promised, and he took a few steps back this time, then drove his shoulder against the wood. The door gave a little, but not enough. Physique backed away from it now. With a roar, he charged across the corridor, and when he was close, he left the castle floor, and both feet and the door splintered. Thank you, Inigo said, already halfway through the broken door. "What do I do now?" Physique called. "Back to Wesley," Inigo answered, in full flight now, beginning chase through a series of rooms. Stupid, Physique punished himself with, and he turned to and rejoined Wesley, only Wesley was no longer there. Physique could feel the panic starting inside him. There was half a dozen possible corridors. Which? Physique said, trying for once in his life to do something right. You'll pick the wrong one, knowing you, he said out loud, and then he took a corridor and started hurrying along it as fast as he could. He did pick the wrong one. Wesley was alone now. Inigo was gaining. He could see instant to instant flashes of the fleeing noble in the next room, and when he reached that place, the Count would have made it into the room beyond. But each time Inigo was gaining, by 5:40, he felt confident he would, after the chase of 25 years, be alone in a room with his revenge. By 5:48, Buttercup felt quite sure that she would be dead. It was still a minute before that as she stood staring at the prince's knives. The most lethal looked to be the one most used, the Florinese dagger. Pointed at one end, it entered easily, growing into a triangular shape by the hilt. For a quicker bleeding, it was said. They were made in varying sizes, and the prince's looked to be one of the largest, being wrist thick where it joined the handle. She pulled it down from the wall, put it to her heart. There are always too few perfect breasts in this world. Leave yours alone, she heard, and there was Wesley on the bed. It was 5:48, and she knew that she would never die. Wesley, for his part, assumed he had till 6:15 for his hour to be up. That was, of course, when an hour was up. Only he didn't have an hour, only 40 minutes. Till 5:55, actually 7 minutes more, but as has been said, he had no way of knowing that, and Inigo had no way of knowing that Count Rugen had a Florinese dagger, or that he was expert with the thing. It took Inigo until 5:41 before he actually cornered the Count in the billiard room. "Hello," he was about to say. "My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die." What he actually got out was something like, "Hello, my name is Inigo," and then the dagger rearranged his insides. The force of the throw sent him staggering backwards to the wall, the rush of blood weakening him so quickly he could not keep his feet. "Domingo, Domingo," he whispered, and then he was at 42 minutes after 5, lost on his knees. Buttercup was baffled by Wesley's behavior. She rushed to him, expecting to meet halfway in a wild embrace. Instead, he only smiled at her and remained where he was, lying on the prince's pillows, a sword beside his body. Buttercup continued the journey alone and fell onto her very one and darling Wesley. "Gently," he said. "At a time like this, that's all you can think to say." "Gently? Gently," Wesley repeated, not so gently this time. She got off him. "Are you angry at me for getting married?" she wondered. "You are not married," he said softly. Strange his voice was. "Not in my church or any other." But the old man did pronounce, "Windows happen every day, don't they, Your Highness?" And now his voice was stronger as he addressed the prince, who entered, muddy boots in hand. Prince Humperdinck dove for his weapons, and a sword flashed in his thick hands. "To the death," he said, advancing. Wesley gave a soft shake of his head. "No," he corrected, "to the pain." It was an odd phrase, and for the moment it brought the prince up short. Besides, why was the fellow just lying there? Where was the trap? I don't think I quite understand that. Wesley lay without moving, but he was smiling more deeply now. "I'll be only too delighted to explain." It was 5:50 now. 25 minutes of safety left. There were 5 minutes. There were 5. He didn't know that. How could he know that? Slowly, carefully, he began to talk. Inigo was talking too. It was still 5:42 when he whispered, "I'm sorry, father." Count Rugen heard the words, but nothing really connected until he saw the sword still held in Inigo's hand. "You're the little Spaniard brat I taught a lesson to," he said, coming closer now, examining the scars. It's simply incredible. Have you been chasing me all these years only to fail now? I think that's the worst thing I ever heard of. How marvelous. Inigo could say nothing. The blood fauceted from his stomach. Count Rugen drew his sword. Sorry, father. I'm sorry. I don't want your sorry. My name is Domingo Montoya, and I died for that sword. And you can keep your sorry. If you were going to fail, why didn't you die years ago and let me rest in peace? And then McPherson was after him too. Spaniards. I never should have tried to teach a Spaniard. They're dumb. They forget what do you do with a wound. How many times did I teach you? What do you do with a wound? Cover it, Inigo said, and he pulled the knife from his body and stuffed his left fist into the bleeding. Inigo's eyes began to focus again. Not well, not perfectly, but enough to see the Count's blade as it approached his heart, and Inigo couldn't do much with the attack. Parry it vaguely, pushed the point of the blade into his left shoulder, where it did no unendurable harm. Count Rugen was a bit surprised at that his point had been deflected, but there was nothing wrong with piercing a helpless man's shoulder. There was no hurry when you had him. McPherson was screaming against Spaniards. Give me a Polak anytime. At least the Polacks remember to use the wall when they have one. Only the Spaniards would forget to use a wall. Slowly, inch by inch, Inigo forced his body up the wall, using his legs just for pushing, letting the wall do all the supporting when necessary. Count Rugen struck again, but for any number of reasons, mostly probably because he didn't expect the other man's movements. He missed the heart and had to be content with driving the blade through the Spaniard's left arm. Inigo didn't mind. He didn't even feel it. His right arm was where his interest lay, and he squeezed the handle, and there was strength in his hand enough to flick out at the enemy. And Count Rugen hadn't expected that either, so he gave a little involuntary cry and took a step back to reassess the situation. Power was flowing up from Inigo's heart to his right shoulder and down from his shoulder to his fingers, and then into the great six-fingered sword, and he pushed off from the wall. Then, with a whispered, "Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die." And they crossed swords. The Count went for the quick kill, the inverse Monetti. No chance. Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. Again they crossed, and the Count moved into a Morozo defense because the blood was still streaming. Inigo shoved his fist deeper into himself. Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. The Count retreated around the billiard table. Inigo slipped on his own blood. The Count continued to retreat, waiting. Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. He dug with his fist, and he didn't want to think about what he was touching and pushing and holding into place. But for the first time, he felt able to try a move. So the six-fingered sword flashed forward, and there was a cut down one side of the side of Count Rugen's cheek. Another flash, another cut parallel, bleeding. Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. Stop saying that. The Count was beginning to experience a decline of nerve. Inigo dove for the Count's left shoulder, as the Count had wounded him. Then he went through the Count's left arm at the same spot the Count had penetrated his. Hello, stronger now. Hello. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. No. Offer me money. Everything, the Count said. Power, too. Promise me that. All I have and more, please. Offer me anything I ask for. Yes, say it. I want Domingo Montoya. You son of a... Well, I'm not going to say that word, but you get it. Female dog. And the six-fingered sword flashed again. The Count screamed. That was just to the left of your heart. Inigo struck again. Another scream. That was below your heart. Can you guess what I'm doing? Cutting my heart out. You took mine when I was 10. I want yours now. We are lovers of justice, you and I. What could be more just than that? The Count screamed one final time and then fell, dead of fear. Inigo looked down at him. The Count's frozen face was petrified and ashen, and the blood still poured down the parallel cuts. His eyes bulged wide, full of horror and pain. It was glorious, if you like that kind of thing. Inigo loved it. It was 5:50. It was 5:50 when he staggered from the room, heading he knew not where or for how long, but hoping only that whoever had been guiding him lately would not desert him now. I'm going to tell you something once, and then whether you die or not is strictly up to you, Wesley said, lying pleasantly on the bed. Across the room, the prince held the sword high. What are you going to tell? What I'm going to tell you is this. Drop your sword, and if you do, then I will leave with this baggage here. He glanced at Buttercup. And you will be tied up, but not fatally, and will soon be free to go about your business. And if you choose to fight, well, then we will not both leave alive. I expect to breathe a while, the prince said. I think you are bluffing. You have been prisoner for months, and I myself killed you less than a day ago, so I doubt that you have much left in your arm. Okay. We have been reading from William Goldman's The Princess Bride, a hot fairy tale. If you like this content, then make sure you like and subscribe, ring the bell so you know when I upload. Also, if you want to support me in any way, or if you want to join the Discord server, all the information will be in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.